Is it focused? Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. That sounded a bit funky, didn't it? To actually read up on the history. I want to spend more. The fact that I haven't filmed in ages is really showing right now. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be my August reading wrap up. Bear with me, it's only been a couple of weeks since I last filmed, but I feel like every time I take a little break, it takes me a little bit of time to readjust again. Anyway, okay, you guys. I can't really believe that it's September, mostly because I'm 20 books behind on my reading target for the year and I'm just feeling the pressure right now. I was really hoping that August was going to be the month that I start to turn things around, but it just wasn't to be. I went on holiday for a week and I didn't do as much reading as I thought I would do. I think I expected a little bit too much from myself considering I was on holiday, but I mean that's only 1 week out of however many weeks have already passed for us to be in September right now. But you know, I'm just hoping that September is going to be that month that I start to turn things around, because if I'm being honest, at this point in the year, there's still a chance for me, but I feel like if I get to October and I still haven't made a decent dent in my, backlog, in my reading backlog, then it's kind of curtains at that point. Let me not get ahead of myself too much and actually get into the books that I read last month. I don't have a physical copy of the first book that I read last month, but that was Crazy Rich Asians by Kevin Kwan. So Crazy Rich Asians is basically about this girl Rachel and her boyfriend Nicholas. They're both professors in New York and they're going to Singapore for the summer, and whilst they're there, Rachel meets his family, and unbeknownst to her, they're all crazy rich. To sort of sum everything up, the story is about her finding out that he's rich and navigating all the obstacles that come with that, really. Rachel's not destitute or anything, but she's far from rich. Nicholas's family aren't really accepting of her. Not the whole family, but like the matriarch, his mum and his grandma. There's a lot happening. Each chapter of the book is from the perspective of a different character, and I actually find it quite distracting that within each perspective, sometimes you would get the thoughts of another character. So for example, there's this character called Astrid, and say it's her perspective. Within it, you'll get a thought from, I can't remember any of the other characters' names. Say Rachel, Astrid will be saying something, and then you'll get a thought of Rachel's just in the middle of the thing. So one thing I really did like about Crazy Rich Asians is that at the bottom of some of the pages there were footnotes that translated popular sayings from like Cantonese and Malay and Hokkien or Hokkien, I'm not quite sure how you pronounce that, but they were all translated into English. When the characters would be eating certain foods, it would be explained what that food was. I really like that you could create an image of Singapore in your head as you progress through the story. Obviously it is a fictional story, but it is an Own Voices novel. The author, Kevin Kwan, is from Singapore, so I'm sure certain parts of it ring true. I actually went on holiday to Singapore a couple of years ago, and as a country, it's a place that I find really intriguing because it was a third world country, and in like half a century or something, it's completely turned around and it's now one of the richest countries in the world. I find that fact alone just really fascinating. Oh my gosh, the fact that I haven't filmed is I really want to read up on Singapore. So for me, I feel like the glimpses of history that you get and the little tidbits about the food in the novel were the best parts of the whole thing. I'll be honest, I wasn't that into the story. I've not been having a whole lot of luck with books lately. I'd say the story was alright and funny in parts, but overall it just wasn't that interesting, and I feel like it was overhyped. For me, it honestly read like a soap opera, and that's no shade or anything. I love soap operas. Hollyoaks and Coronation Street and EastEnders and all of that. Like, I've grown up watching shows like that, but I honestly feel like reading the novel, it read like a Hollyoaks script. And I don't mean that in a bad way, I just feel like certain parts of it was so extra and so dramatic, and I feel like it's the kind of thing that would play out better on screen, which is why I think it's really good that it's been adapted into a movie. I think it's more than likely that I will see the movie, especially because Gemma Chan is in it and she's playing Astrid. Gemma Chan has actually been in a lot of stuff, but personally I've only ever seen her in Humans, and Humans, if you haven't seen that TV show, great TV show. Anyway, let me just backpedal a little bit. The fact that I liken the novel to a Hollyoaks script is no shade on it at all. I literally just mean it in the sense that I found it very dramatic. But the difference is, with Hollyoaks, it's far from being my favourite show ever, but I do get enjoyment from watching it. But with Crazy Rich Asians, I didn't experience the same kind of enjoyment. I didn't hate reading it, but I wasn't exactly happy that I was reading it either. I was reading it because I was reading it, if that makes sense. I also feel like it was longer than it needed to be, and the characters could have been a little bit more fleshed out than they were. When I was reading it, I actually didn't realise it was the first in a series. I thought it was just a standalone novel. Based on my experience of reading the first book, I'd say it's very unlikely that I'm going to go ahead and finish the series. I think I'm just going to leave it there, to be honest. I picked up the first book because of BookTube, to be honest, and the fact that it's being adapted into a movie. I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have been drawn to the book on my own. Overall, I'd give Crazy Rich Asians 2 out of 5 stars. Most of the books I've read so far have been 2-star reads for me, and I'm hoping with September I can change that a little bit. Currently I'm reading, you know what, let me save that for my TBR. This video shouldn't be too long considering that the next book I read was the last book I read in August. That book I actually do have a copy of, and that is When Dimple Met Rishi by Santa Menon. This book is basically about this girl called Dimple and this guy called Rishi. So they meet during a summer program that's taking place at a university, and it's a coding program, and Dimple basically wants to be a coder, and Rishi is just there because he wants to meet Dimple. And the thing is, their parents know each other and have agreed to set them up for an arranged marriage. This is all news to Dimple, but Rishi knows about it. So Dimple feels that her parents are only interested in sort of marrying her off and her, you know, being a wife and a mother and things like that, whereas she doesn't want any of that really, so they butt heads over that. Unbeknownst to her, her parents agreeing to let her go to the program is all because they want her to meet Rishi there. That's kind of the jumping off point for the whole story. Again, this is a book I picked up because of BookTube, and again, I was disappointed by it. I'd give it a 2 out of 5. I really didn't enjoy this book. It was a fairly quick read and everything, but it just wasn't good. I didn't like Dimple. I feel like there wasn't much going on with Rishi. The story was predictable, and it just wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And I've heard other people talk about this book. They've described it as a sort of summary contemporary read, something that's really funny and light. I didn't have those same feelings, I'll be honest with you. I just feel like it was longer than it needed to be. Dimple was annoying and rude and violent and aggressive, and Rishi was flat as a character. He just did whatever Dimple wanted ultimately. It's great that it's diverse and you get snippets of Indian culture. I really enjoyed that aspect of it. For me, a book being diverse isn't reason enough for it to be good. It's great that it's diverse, but that fact alone shouldn't be a reason to read it. I'm just gonna go through all the reasons that this book wasn't for me. So considering the fact that a large portion of the book takes place during a coding competition, a real lack of coding actually goes on during the story. I didn't love the writing style. Like, I'm not a writer or anything, but the writing style came across very juvenile. As I was saying earlier, I didn't really like Dimple. As a character, she was painted as a girl who wasn't like other girls, and because of that, she was better than those girls. It wasn't said in so many words that she wasn't like other girls. That is definitely how she was written though. She didn't wear makeup and she wasn't popular, and all those things that she wasn't were aligned with characters in the book that you were clearly supposed to hate. There's one character in particular that was used to drive home that point quite a lot. Her name was Isabel. During the novel, there's a talent show that takes place, and this girl Isabel and another girl who Dimple's actually roommates with, Celia, they're in a group that's going to be dancing on stage in bikinis or whatever. That's not really a spoiler because it has nothing whatsoever to do with the story. When Dimple finds out that that's what's going to be taking place, the quote is, and let me read it, "Of course Isabel was up for it. She'd probably even eat carbs for that amount of attention." I feel like that one quote says it all really. It's fictional and everything, but I still find it so baffling that people can say such hateful things to make themselves feel better about themselves. So aside from that clear like girl on girl hatred, Dimple was also kind of aggressive towards Rishi. Like, she'd hit him for no reason. There's one moment where she hits him and he like winces, but she didn't hit him quite as hard as she had intended to, and she was disappointed that she hadn't. Honestly, she was just kind of bordering on abusive. She was easily irritated, and she honestly didn't have that many redeeming qualities. And Rishi was just kind of bland. He bent to Dimple's will too easily and was just altogether too eager to please. So far, this is definitely one of my most disappointing reads of the year. It just was so far from what I was expecting. It just wasn't good. Another thing that I forgot to mention, the insta-love in this book was way too much for me. The program itself took place over a course of 6 weeks. It's just not even halfway through, they're just so into each other, and it's so unbelievable. Honestly, it felt like there was no real plot either. Really, it was just a love story with a coding competition thrown in to flesh it out a little bit, and a talent show that has nothing to do with anything. Like, the talent show, the coding competition, all of that was just filler, really. The other 2 books on my TBR for August were The Upside of Unrequited by Becky Albertalli and Attachments by Rainbow Rowell. I'm currently still reading Attachments, and I didn't actually make it to the episode of Unrequited. Let's hope that September is a better month for me reading wise. Alright guys, that's the end of today's video. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it, please remember to like, comment and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. There should be buttons on the screen for you to do so. I don't just make book related videos on this channel, I also do beauty videos, hauls, reviews, that type of thing. If any of that interests you, go ahead and check out one of those videos when you're done here. Yeah, that's everything. Thanks again, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye. My nose just blocked. Let's hope that September is the best month for me reading wise. Right, help me. I honestly... Why are people screaming, dude? I'm trying to film. Yeah, it just... Okay, I have to shut the window because that's kind of... Is it focused?